ShareTrek. Today is 29th of December, and this is a ShareTrek year-end special on CRISPR stocks, the outlook for 2022. Where we are at this point of time, it's been a tough year for CRISPR stocks. Even if we take the four major stocks that we track, CRISPR Therapeutics is down 47%, likewise for Editas Medicine, and Beam is down 38%, and Intellia is down around 31%. And overall, all the shares we had in our list had a very, very tough time in 2022. So that's where we are starting from. I would rather like to look at the negatives first and then go for all the positives, because there are a lot of positives. But at the same time, in order to be grounded, we need to make sure we don't ignore looking at the negatives. So in terms of negatives, I have a bunch of hurdles that in my mind pose a lot of risks and challenges for this sector going forward. So let's talk about the key hurdles, right? The first key hurdle is the moral questions. There are moral questions around playing around with genetics, especially because there's a risk of generational impact. So that needs to be handled first. And when you look at it, in conjunction with the fact that there hasn't been proactive legislative framework in place, that makes this reasonably high risk kind of environment. Because if we already have a proactive legislative framework in place, it can tell the companies what can be done and what should not be done. It can also inform the public as to what to expect and manage their anxiety and their fears, and also manage misinformation. So in the absence of a proactive legislative framework, the environment is fraught with various kinds of risks as and when new developments come in the field of CRISPR and genetic medicine. Delivery still remains a challenge. So off-base edits and unintended side consequences, those things are all still a challenge which needs to be managed proactively. And the probability that human and animal gene expression may not be identical in response makes it very difficult to do trials on animals for many of the human ailments that we may be looking at. So that's another hurdle, in my opinion, which could inhibit the progress of this field at a rapid pace, as rapid as we would like it to be. On top of it, we have a prevailing anti-science sentiment along with this big distrust in big pharma, which can be evidenced in the anti-vaccine movement and the kind of fake news that we get on the internet, which has kind of made it possible for COVID to mutate so much. And now we have the Omicron strain, and still many people do not believe in the vaccine. Many people do not even believe that there is COVID. So when we put all these things together, it looks a bit formidable. It's not that it's unsurmountable, it's just that it adds more risk and more complexity and more delay factors into the process. Also, there is this populist movement where the lawmakers are looking to cap the price of biotech drugs, and hence the flight of capital can take place from pharma companies and biotech companies, because with the interest rate going up, and which is going to happen in the next year, the Fed has already announced that there will be 3 interest rate hikes at least. So when those things happen, and also lawmakers trying to cap the prices for drugs, the pharmaceutical companies are going to be a bit constrained in how much money they can put into R&D and other activities. And also there will be a flight of capital from more risky shares to more safe and assured return shares. So the CRISPR shares are likely to face some headwinds from there, especially in terms of flight of capital from our sector to other sectors. So these are the key hurdles, but we shouldn't get disheartened by this, because for any new industry, they're all going to operate under the same circumstances. The only special thing for us is the moral issues and the anti-science environment. So those are the things that I would worry about. But apart from that, I think most of the companies are doing a great job progressing various candidates along the path towards monetization, and many are in the phase 1 and 2 of FDA trials, especially when it comes to sickle cell anemia, which I think is going to be the first off the block. So having said that, let's look at the positive sides, the positive developments that will power this sector in 2022. So when I think about what is going to happen in 2022, I can think of the fact that we have two competing technologies which can also be complementary to each other, Beam with base editing and CRISPR Therapeutics with CRISPR-Cas9. Together, these two techniques are allowing a previously unattainable level of genomic targeting with greater efficiency and simplicity. So that, in my mind, is a great catalyst. It's something that we have to be very thankful for, because this is going to be adding the pace of development and providing a range of tools for various technologies to be developed. And though Intellia leads in the field of in vivo therapies, CRISPR seems to be further ahead in immuno-oncology drugs, like for cancer treatments that use body's own immune system. One of CRISPR's drug candidates is already in its third year of live trials and may potentially see monetization possibly towards the end of 2022, assuming nothing unexpected happens. And again, these are my opinions based on what I have been reading about and based on my research. And some of the companies are well funded, whereas the others can access funds through capital markets or allowed to be merged and acquired. I'm going to talk about this aspect more as we go ahead, because we're going to need a lot of funds to put all the tools, technologies, everything into place to come up with cures that can be monetized. And in order to do that, many companies in our watch list would have to adapt to either share dilution or give themselves up for being acquired, or maybe they'll merge together and pool their resources and look at the synergies. So those are the things that are going to be potentially positive developments that will power this sector in 2022. And one most important thing which I am also excited about, it's not my original thought, but this is something Cathie Wood has been talking about for quite a while, but during my research for this video, I found a lot of evidence that this is actually happening. What is happening is that there's a confluence of cutting-edge technologies that lend synergy to CRISPR deployment in solving major genetic diseases. And these confluence of technologies will progressively reduce the costs of these therapies and make it much more widely accessible and hence be more successful. So I think in light of all these factors, the confluence of cutting-edge technologies, we need to broaden our vision. And in terms of broadening our vision, what I mean is that we should not be looking just at the list of these 5 or 6 CRISPR and base editing companies that we have been looking at, but instead expand our coverage to look at big pharma also, because we can't rule out big pharma. Big pharma has got a lot of patents in its pockets and has got a lot of research and development and more drugs in the process of FDA approval, advanced stage, which can create new revenue streams while the old patents will die and old revenue streams will cease to be there. So big pharma is already in a very steady revenue state, and it has mastered this whole art of having a series of patents alive at any point of time to keep it going and getting in increasing revenues, and also managing R&D schedules and pipelines. And what has happened during COVID is that we saw Pfizer take over BioNTech, and we have seen how it has resulted in a quick deployment of vaccine and the resultant increase in the share prices for Pfizer. So we got to look at all those big pharma companies which have either already taken over some of these CRISPR companies, or which have shown interest in the past, or have bought some kind of license, or I can say rights to a particular therapy for the global deployment. So those kind of things will happen, which will give money to our companies in order to continue their development of new therapies in CRISPR. So we have to broaden our vision to include those kind of companies. So while we talk about that, I would like to show you a small clip of a company called UniQ. Right. Please hold on while I cue up the video.
Gene mutations can result in the production of proteins that are toxic to the cell. UniQure combines the potential of adeno-associated viruses, or AAV-based vectors, and microRNA technologies to develop the MyCure technology platform. AAV-based vectors carry the therapeutic genetic material to target cells. Following a single dose, the gene cassette forms an episome from which the cell can repeatedly express the microRNA that will inhibit translation of the toxic protein. The hairpin-shaped microRNA needs to undergo several processes within the cell before it is ready to silence the toxic protein. Now the microRNA is further processed in the cytoplasm with the help from a group of proteins called RISC, and lastly, by PAR. The end result is a single-stranded mature microRNA known as the guide strand. The other strand of RNA, known as the passenger strand, is broken down, which reduces the possibility of off-target effects. This complex with a single-stranded mature microRNA can bind directly to the target protein's messenger RNA and reduces the translation of the toxic protein. In summary, uniQure is using AAV-based vectors to deliver a gene cassette into a brain cell's nucleus with the goal of inhibiting the translation of toxic proteins.
Another thing that I was talking about before when I did the introduction was the ways in which capital might flow into our sector. So one of the things I was talking about was mergers and acquisitions. So when a company has got a promising product but does not have sufficient money, in order to attract money, it will try to reach various sources. That's the time when some companies which are opportunistic would like to take over such companies because there's a good potential for developing intellectual properties, and those companies get taken over. We are talking about 25th of June 2020. That's when this news article came out. So around that time, uniQure got a deal with CSL Behring, where Behring will pay more than $2 billion in upfront cash and milestones plus royalties on future sales in exchange for exclusive global rights to the gene therapy. So if you look at it from two perspectives, one, as a shareholder of uniQure, then you can feel relaxed that you got $2 billion in order to complete the research and you'll have ongoing royalties in future sales. However, there's a cap to it. So you'd rather have that $2 billion coming in through shares and having all the gains and everything to yourself, but then you won't get the $2 billion so easily because there'll be share dilution and the share price will go down. So there is pros and cons on each side. But on the other hand, look at it from the point of view of shareholder of CSL Behring. Wouldn't they find that it was a very attractive opportunity to deploy capital, $2 billion, and then capitalize on the research and development of uniQure and get global rights to sell the technology elsewhere? So that's the reason why I'm saying that we have to broaden our vision, because if we just stay focused to these 6 or 7 CRISPR companies, chances are that one of them will turn out to be like the next Tesla and be very strong and be in total command of their technologies. But the possibility that many are going to be taken over sooner rather than later, especially as they are close to monetization, is very, very high. And therefore, we need to expand our vision. The other way we need to expand our vision is also look at enabling technologies that could get a slice of this growing pie. Basically, I'm talking about AI, big data, and silicon chips. These are the other areas, and it will become much more apparent as we go ahead further in this presentation. I would say that we shouldn't rule out the pharma majors because they have the purchasing power. The Pfizer-BioNTech deal was one of the most consequential ones in 2020 to show big pharma's appetite for RNA research, and that it can be jump-started through collaboration. That has impacted companies with clinical stage products, and academic labs will likely result in more RNA-focused projects in 2022 and beyond. So the COVID vaccine is an example. With the deep pockets established, pharma will embark on takeovers and mergers to stay in the cutting edge of medicine, while the present medical platforms slowly grow obsolete. So the traditional medicine is likely to get obsolete, and we'll have more of genetic medicine. Right now, there are about 10 to 12 FDA-approved RNA therapeutics, the bulk of which are antisense oligonucleotides, which is ASO, and small interfering RNA, which is called as siRNA, candidates for genetic disorders. 2022 will usher in a broader landscape of RNA-focused vaccines and therapeutics that look at oncology, ophthalmology, and infectious diseases. More than 20 novel RNA therapeutics or vaccine trials are expected to start in 2022. So that's the scope of things. So we should not take our eyes off the major pharma. And I'm going to work on identifying those pharmaceutical companies and create a separate watch list and maybe a separate set of videos. Like we may end up probably in 2022 having 2 sets of videos dropped daily, one focusing on core CRISPR and the other on the analogous companies, which would include these big pharmas, which are potential candidates, as well as the silicon technology companies and big data companies that might play a part. Another interesting development that has been highlighted many times by Cathie Woods is the resurgence of RNA exploration coupled with advances in big data analysis and AI, which has led to a growing interest in researching non-coding RNA targets, often called as junk DNA, in the field of oncology, fibrosis, and neurological disorders. Individual firms are further developing unique platforms to address delivery challenges that have plagued investigational candidates in the past, creating a diverse field of candidates using approaches like tRNA and oligomer conjugated antibodies. So coupled with our increasing big data analysis capacity, both software as well as hardware and AI, we now have a potential to review the vast universe of unexplored molecules that could be involved in diseases and devise potent discovery mechanisms and gene editing to rectify a whole range of diseases. So I'm going to show you a small video. I won't show the entire piece, but maybe a snippet of it, which talks about Cambridge One. This year, US technology company NVIDIA launched Cambridge One, the UK's most powerful supercomputer, to help British healthcare researchers solve some of the industry's most urgent healthcare challenges. Along with the launch of Cambridge One, NVIDIA also announced a series of collaborations with the pharmaceutical giants such as AstraZeneca and GlaxoSmithKline, as well as academic institutions like King's College London and Oxford Nanopore Technologies. Instead of giving more a rundown on this, I would rather let NVIDIA itself speak to you through their video. So please hold on while I cue up the video.
With the help of Rosalind Franklin at King's College London, Crick discovered the double helix structure of DNA and opened the door to understanding the operating system of life itself. Around the same time, in 1950, Alan Turing at King's College of Cambridge University did his seminal work in computing and artificial intelligence. 70 years later, NVIDIA's Turing GPU pioneered a computer architecture that made artificial intelligence a central method of computation. The results of this approach have proven to be staggering. In computational molecular dynamics, researchers simulated 300 million atoms for 100,000 nanoseconds, a scale that is 10 million-fold larger than what was possible just 15 years ago. Moore's law, the exponential law of computing progress, would have achieved only 1,000-fold. The fusion of GPU-accelerated computing and AI has started the age of super exponential advances. Today, Oxford Nanopore Technologies uses innovative sensors and AI algorithms running on NVIDIA GPU supercomputers to digitize DNA into sequences of billions of characters. ONT's technology helped characterize the coronavirus genome. It is now used to do rapid testing and identify variants, making the UK a leader in this area. The nearly simultaneous breakthroughs of ONT and cryo-electron microscopy for atomic scale imaging and AI computing has set the stage for another scientific breakthrough. Using the same breakthroughs in natural language understanding, we may soon learn the structure and meaning of biology itself. With AI, we will soon decode and understand biology. We are at the beginning of the digital biology revolution. To do this work, scientists need a powerful rocket for their journey. Today, we're inaugurating Cambridge One, named in honor of the birthplace of computing and genomics, and also ARM's headquarters, which we hope will be our future home in the UK. NVIDIA's Cambridge One is UK's most powerful supercomputer, the fastest industrial supercomputer in the world, the greenest and most energy efficient with a net zero carbon footprint. NVIDIA Cambridge One brings together decades of our work in accelerated computing, AI, and life sciences into a single computing center, consisting of NVIDIA's Ampere AI GPU inside NVIDIA's DGX supercomputers, running NVIDIA's Clara computation platform for life sciences. Cambridge One is our first big bet on the digital biology revolution.
So as you saw in that video, I mean, there is more to that video. I'll put the link below in the description. You can go and have a look at it. But basically, NVIDIA is collaborating with AstraZeneca to build a transformer-based generative AI model for chemical structures, which will allow researchers to leverage massive data sets using self-supervised training methods and enable faster drug discovery. Transformer is a deep learning model that adopts the mechanism of self-attention, differentially weighing the significance of each part of the input data. It's primarily used in the field of natural language processing, called NLP, and in computer vision, called as CV, and now in genetics to identify proteins. Shares of NVIDIA have been soaring for a while now, and this opportunity reservation in genetic research is probably the extra premium in its share price. And all this information is coming from, what I'm going to talk to you about is coming from pharmaceuticaltechnology.com. Talking to pharmaceuticaltechnology.com, NVIDIA's Vice President of Healthcare, Kimberly Powell, shared with Pharmaceutical Technology the company's top 3 predictions for supercomputing in pharma. The first one is that AI accelerates million times drug discovery. Molecular simulation helped to model target and drug interactions completely in computer. The breakthrough of AlphaFold and RosettaFold that created 1,000-fold explosion of known protein structures, and AI that can generate 1,000 more potential chemical compounds has increased the opportunity to discover drugs by 1,000,000 times. AlphaFold and RosettaFold AI tools with revolutionary analysis can create 3-dimensional models of eukaryotic protein complexes, which may help accelerate the development of future novel therapeutics and drug discoveries. So if you are wondering what is AlphaFold, AlphaFold was created by Google-owned DeepMind. It made scientific history in November 2020 by solving protein folding, a 50-year-old grand challenge in biology with its highly accurate protein structure predictions. Later in July 2021, DeepMind made its revolutionary AlphaFold version 2.0 model available as open source software on GitHub. RosettaFold, spelled as ROSETTA fold, where TTA is capital. A 3-track neural network uses AI deep learning to predict protein structures and rapidly build models of complex biological assemblies. Now you can imagine that with these kind of heavy computing power, artificial intelligence and data science tools, that should be a breakthrough in mapping a lot of protein structures and identifying what diseases and conditions they are associated with and how to correct them. So then the focus comes to targeting and editing the DNA, for which we already have 2 technologies, base editing as well as CRISPR-Cas9. And when you put them all together, it's a potent revolution of the entire medical field, where the existing medicines, the way we treat symptoms, is going to be changed around its head, and everything will be treated based on the root cause. And most of the genetic diseases could be taken care of either before birth or when the patient is available for treatment. So that's really great. There is also this concept of multimodal AI. There are over 10,000 diseases without a therapy. Multiple sources of health data need to be used, whether it is to discover drugs or to treat patients. In order to leverage the world's largest data sources, multimodal AI will bring us to that new frontier in discovering disease pathways as well as personalizing the treatment and prognosis of patients. So what they have done with Cambridge One is that they have tried to make sure that the disease information that is available can be separated from the personal patient information, so that the disease information can be freely shared with a lot of researchers, and a lot of minds can work at it at the same time, and then the research can leapfrog really fast forward, because there will be too many people working on the same problem, and the solutions will come much faster. AI 2.0 with federated learning to help application developers industrialize their AI technology and expand the application's business benefit. AI must be trained and validated on data that resides outside the possession of their group, institution, and geography. Federated learning is key to enable such collaborations to build and validate robust AI models without sharing sensitive data. Federated learning will be an essential capability to facilitate the continuous learning and evaluation of AI. And the AI, when it learns that way, it can learn faster because it's getting access to multiple sources without compromising the personal individual information. And as the AI learns more and more, it becomes more and more efficient in doing its job. However, all said and done, as I mentioned before, delivery still remains a challenge. That is one area in which we need to work really hard. And when I look at what Cathie Woods was saying, right, it was her premise that there is rapid development in the field of computing, data science, AI, and genetics, and they will operate together synergistically to solve healthcare issues and be the next FANG stocks. So we can already see that happening with the Cambridge one and the collaboration it has with AstraZeneca and King's. So that's the living proof of what is happening. But it's not visible to a lot of people. Unless you go and research, you don't know. But by the time it becomes common knowledge, the share prices will all be through the roof. So those who are bearing the pain right now by investing in these companies should remember that there is revenues coming in the future. The stock market participants consist of entities and individuals of different philosophies, mindset, discipline, and aspirations. Some focus only on crypto, for example. Some are focused on short-term trades to maximize profits. Then you have some venture capitalists searching for the next big things to finance. Like they want to have a next big idea in which they can pour the money into. So EV was one of those areas, and now it is CRISPR. So good investment for individuals should involve asset and risk diversification as well as strong anchor stock in the portfolio that maintains value and ideally provides regular dividend. How you allocate the portfolio depends on your risk capability, depth of capital available, and time horizon as well as age. So regardless of how attractive CRISPR and related developments are, it will not take off until it has the attention of most players in the market. ARKG ETF now is ideally priced for entry in my opinion. If you believe this field is going to succeed and will monetize soon. Yet for others, the focus may predominantly be on, say, the EV sector. So there are many Tesla people, like they want to invest only in Tesla, or there are people who just want to invest in Palantir, which is again a data sciences company. So there are investors like that. So you have to decide how you are going to diversify, but diversify you must. Instead of being a one-trick pony, we need to expand. I believe that Cathie Woods is ahead of her time, and the ETF will take the pain for a few more years before it could be a winner, probably in the next 3 to 5 years time frame when the FDA approvals start arriving steadily. So that is what I think is the state of play. That brings me to a more philosophical point. Firstly, money is not everything, right? However, money is needed in modern society for living. So we try to make money, prepare for our retirement and the quality of life we want in our retirement. How you earn money, whether it is through woodworking, road construction, or investing in crypto, gold, or stocks, is only your choice, right? Some people I know, they like to buy existing business and run the business, whereas the others have a challenge of starting and growing a new business and then selling it and then going and creating a new business. All those people are making money. How you want to make money is your choice, right? We need to find what is our flavor and focus on it. Endeavor to diversify within that focus area. So let us say our focus is CRISPR. We can retain the focus, but we need to diversify within that area so that all our eggs are not in one basket, and we have various areas which are contributing to our revenue and the growth of our investment. So if one underperforms, the other can compensate for it by performing better. Diversification is essential. Without diversification, investing becomes a gamble. So many of the viewers who are probably just staying with CRISPR or just with one stock in CRISPR, I would urge you to consider diversification, because without diversification, it's a big gamble. Discipline is essential. Without discipline, any line of work becomes a fling and does not last long. So if you are into CRISPR stocks, be active on the net, doing your research, looking out for latest news, what is happening, looking out for new companies that are coming in the field, looking out for new collaborations, new merger and acquisition chatter, all those things. Because being an investor is a difficult task. It's not easy like you get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, read the newspaper, and then buy a few shares. It's definitely not like that. You need to be constantly aware of the environment, the government policies, the economic risks, the federal policies, and all those things, in order to make sure that you invest in the right place and you get out of it in the right time and you book your profits at the right time. So that's very important. The market values perfection in any discipline. To attain perfection or near perfection, it takes discipline, practice, study, consistency, and time. So to be an investor, you need to do all these things. You need to be disciplined and allocate some time every day just to go and understand what is happening in this field of business. My video alone is not a source. Mine is one of the many sources that you'll have to look at in order to form your own opinion. Finally, is making money enough for happiness? Money is only one dimension. Blind pursuit of money can lead to loss of other life experiences and potential remorse in old age. So I took an early retirement at 50, basically because I wanted to spend more time with my family and my little dogs. And I'm enjoying every minute of it, and my interests have spanned a whole lot of things, right from sketching and painting to home renovation and property investment, and of course share investment and this YouTube channel, for example. And all of these things give me happiness. I can't imagine that I would be happy if I was still doing my project management job in the bank and working on 2 or 3 software projects at a time, going in the morning, working late in the evening, having a breakfast and lunch alone, and coming back home and going to bed. I'm happy with my decisions, and it's been around 6 or 7 years now since I retired, and I'm happy with my work, and especially very happy with this YouTube channel in which I'm able to communicate to all of you. So I think we need to take time daily to walk our dog, talk to the kids, talk to your partner, take them out for dinner, all the small things that take backseat to our pursuit of wealth. That has always been a New Year resolution for me, and it gets better every year. We make a New Year resolution and within a month it's all broken. But we have to continue making that resolution so that we don't have much regrets. My philosophy is that if you have happiness and laughter every day of your life, when you look back at your life, it's a happy life. So put the seeds of happiness, do something that makes you happy every day, and diversify so that you don't have to worry too much about your investments. And having said that, CRISPR is a sunrise industry. It's only going to do better and better as the time goes by. But right now, it's going to be in a lot of pain. So you got to make sure that you don't put everything in the kitchen sink into it. Diversify, invest patiently, keep track of what is happening in the business, and good things will happen. That's all for today. Thanks. Please like, share, and subscribe, and help us grow this channel. Bye for now.